The Galactic Council had watched Earth for centuries, studying its inhabitants from a distance, their curiosity piqued by humanity's rapid rise. Despite their primitive beginnings, humans had surged from isolated tribes to a technologically advanced species capable of space travel. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and most troubling of all, incredibly determined. The Council saw them as a growing threat, a species too dangerous to be left unchecked. It had taken years of deliberation, but the decision had finally been made: humanity must be eradicated. The Council was vast, a coalition of ancient species with unmatched military might, but none of them could stand up to what humanity had already accomplished in its short existence. They needed their finest weapon, their ultimate predators. The apex predators of the galaxy were feared by all who encountered them. Biologically engineered for war, they were designed to be the perfect hunters. Their bodies were muscular, their minds sharp, and their instincts honed to perfection. The Council sent 7 of these creatures to Earth, each chosen for their unique abilities. These predators were brutal, capable of laying waste to entire civilizations. They did not know mercy, only the hunt. The Council knew that with these creatures unleashed, Earth's defenses would be crushed. As the first ships descended toward Earth, there was no fanfare, no declaration of war. The predators' arrival was as swift and silent as the death they brought with them. The cities they targeted were destroyed within moments. New York, Beijing, Moscow, each of them fell beneath the weight of their strength. The creatures tore through military installations, obliterating everything in their path. The alien invaders believed it would be over in days. Humanity, after all, had never faced anything like them before. The predators were supposed to be unstoppable, beings of unimaginable power. But what the aliens failed to grasp was the heart of humanity, its ability to adapt, to rise above overwhelming odds. The first signs of humanity's resilience were seen almost immediately. News outlets reported the destruction, but rather than panic, a strange unity began to emerge. The humans rallied. Global military leaders convened in secret, coming together to form a unified defense strategy. They were not foolish enough to think they could win without a fight, but they were smart enough to know they had one chance, if they could turn the predator's strength into a weakness. Humanity's initial shock was quickly replaced with a cold, calculated resolve. The protagonist, a high-ranking military commander, had seen his share of battles. He knew the stakes. As news spread of the devastation, he was called to action. He had little time to formulate a plan, but he was no stranger to pressure. In the face of what seemed like certain defeat, he made his first move. He called for a meeting of the world's most brilliant minds. Scientists, engineers, strategists, and military tacticians were brought together in a single room. There were no egos here, no time for division. This was about survival. They needed a strategy, a way to fight back against an enemy unlike any they had ever faced. The meeting was tense, each person acutely aware of the impossible task ahead. But there was something else, an unspoken understanding that, despite the odds, they would not go down without a fight. One scientist proposed the idea of studying the alien technology and the predators themselves. If they could find a weakness, a flaw in their design, humanity might have a chance. The strategist suggested that they use the predator's size and strength against them. They would need to outsmart them, to create traps, use the environment, and exploit the predator's overconfidence. As plans were drawn up, the military forces began to mobilize. The first wave of humanity's resistance came from military units positioned near the cities under attack. They had no illusions of defeating the predators directly, but they understood that they needed to buy time for the larger operation to unfold. Guerrilla tactics were employed, attacks from the shadows, ambushes designed to slow the predators down and force them into predictable patterns. It wasn't enough to win, but it was enough to make the predators realize that they were not dealing with an easy prey. The predators were not invincible, and the humans were learning. They were not as fast or strong as the creatures, but they were smart. They adapted quickly, employing makeshift weapons, creating electromagnetic pulse devices to disable the predators' advanced tech, and using every advantage they could muster. The predators, accustomed to ruling their hunting grounds without resistance, were beginning to feel an unfamiliar sense of frustration. They were being outwitted, and it was angering them. They had underestimated their prey. The first direct confrontation took place in the ruins of New York. A massive predator, a towering creature covered in thick, armored scales, was hunting survivors. It had already leveled entire city blocks, its roar echoing through the streets. But as it stalked its prey, it became the prey itself. A group of soldiers, working with a team of engineers, had set a trap. They lured the predator into an abandoned subway tunnel, where the creature's immense size became a disadvantage. The soldiers fired an electromagnetic pulse at the predator, causing it to freeze momentarily. It was a short-lived victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. The predator was finally killed after a well-placed shot to its underbelly. The human forces cheered. It was a rare moment of triumph, but they all knew the war was far from over. The death of the first predator sent a message to both humanity and the alien invaders. Humans were not simply sitting ducks waiting for annihilation. The predators might have been powerful, but they were not invincible. Humanity's will to survive was stronger than anyone had imagined. The aliens, once certain of their victory, began to question their understanding of the human species. The apex predators, despite their might, were beginning to fall. As each predator was slain, the humans grew bolder. They had already proven that they could defeat the seemingly undefeatable. The odds, once overwhelmingly against them, began to shift. The humans had their first taste of victory, and they wanted more. The aliens had thought they were sending their best, but what they failed to account for was that humans, against all odds, always find a way to win. The predator's arrival had been swift, devastating, and seemingly unstoppable. As the first wave of creatures unleashed their fury on Earth's most populous regions, humanity's initial reaction was one of chaos and disbelief. Cities crumbled beneath the weight of these monstrous beings, and military forces were overwhelmed by the raw power and ferocity of the invaders. The world watched in horror as these apex predators tore through everything in their path, and for a brief moment, it seemed as though Earth's fate had been sealed. But in the face of annihilation, humanity did not buckle under pressure. Instead, they found strength in their unity. The first signs of resistance began within hours of the initial attack. Global communication networks were immediately activated, coordinating efforts to address the crisis. Governments, military forces, and civilians alike all rallied to combat the alien menace. As news of the predator's carnage spread, a unified sense of purpose emerged. The human race, under threat of complete eradication, quickly realized that they would need to think and act faster than their invaders. They could not rely on brute force alone. This was a battle of survival, and the only way forward was through strategy and innovation. Military leaders across the globe immediately began working together, pooling resources and knowledge. They knew their enemy's strength. These predators were fast, highly durable, and seemingly impervious to conventional weaponry. However, their biggest weakness was their overconfidence. They had underestimated the humans, expecting them to fall apart under pressure, to panic and scatter. But humanity's ability to innovate, adapt, and fight back was unmatched. Every military strategist, from the highest-ranking generals to the smallest tactical officers, understood that the key to survival lay in disrupting the predator's momentum and leveraging human ingenuity. The initial wave of resistance was small but effective. In key urban centers, human forces set traps and ambushes to slow the predators down, preventing them from reaching vital military hubs. These early engagements were not meant to defeat the predators outright but to create confusion and gain time. In the devastated ruins of New York, for instance, small pockets of survivors managed to evade the predators and relay critical intelligence back to global military command. This new information allowed the humans to learn from each predator's unique traits, a critical advantage that would eventually turn the tide of the war. A key moment in humanity's response came when a team of engineers and scientists, working in a hidden underground bunker, discovered the predator's vulnerability. These creatures, while incredibly powerful, were not invincible. They had been designed for raw combat strength, their bodies reinforced with armor and weapons, but they had not been built with flexibility or adaptability in mind. By exploiting the predators' reliance on their heightened senses, humans realized they could disorient them. They adapted electromagnetic pulse, EMP, technology to create devices capable of short-circuiting the predators' sensory systems, rendering them temporarily blind or confused. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a game-changer in the short term. While the predators continued their rampage, human forces organized strikes on their locations, forcing the creatures into smaller, more manageable groups. As these creatures roamed freely, they unknowingly became targets for coordinated human attacks. Urban guerrilla warfare tactics were employed with ruthless precision. Buildings were rigged with explosives to force the predators into narrow streets and alleyways where they could be cornered. With their immense size and strength, the predators were formidable opponents, but they lacked the agility and tactical foresight that humans had developed over centuries of warfare. By using their environment to their advantage, humans were able to lead the predators into traps, where they could be neutralized with the new EMP weapons. Despite the predators' overwhelming power, it became increasingly clear that the creatures were not invincible. Each predator was different, and each presented its own set of challenges. Some were incredibly fast and nearly invisible, relying on stealth to ambush their prey. These stealthy predators presented the first real test to humanity's resolve. Conventional tactics proved useless, and the human forces had to adapt quickly, shifting from brute force to psychological warfare. The predators, highly intelligent but arrogant, were not prepared for this form of battle. Humans used deception, manipulating the environment with decoys and false signals to lure the predators into vulnerable positions. Every successful ambush became a small victory, and with each predator that fell, humanity's confidence grew. The most shocking defeat came when one of the largest and most terrifying predators, an enormous creature with layers of near impenetrable armor, was taken down by a simple, unexpected tactic. The human forces, working in secret, developed a high-powered sonic pulse capable of vibrating at frequencies that caused the predator's armor to resonate and fail under its own weight. While this method was not foolproof, it demonstrated humanity's ability to adapt and innovate in the heat of battle. The predator was disabled, and human soldiers swarmed in to finish the job. What had once seemed impossible, killing one of these apex predators, was now a reality. The aliens watching from afar could not believe it. The predators they had sent, the very best they had to offer, were being systematically defeated by the humans' ingenuity. This shift in the war marked a turning point. The aliens had underestimated the human species in every possible way. They had sent their strongest, most fearsome predators, assuming that Earth would be easy prey. But what they failed to account for was humanity's greatest weapon, the mind. It was not brute force that would win this war for humanity. It was strategy, creativity, and an unbreakable will to survive. As each predator fell, the global human effort intensified. Soldiers, engineers, and scientists from every corner of the world came together, driven by the knowledge that they were not only defending their planet, they were defending their way of life. By the time the first predator had been fully neutralized, the psychological shift on the battlefield was undeniable. The humans had proven that they could take down a creature that no one had thought possible to defeat. The predators, once thought of as unstoppable, were now being hunted. But this victory, while significant, was not enough to win the war. The aliens still held a significant advantage in terms of numbers and resources. But humanity, now emboldened by their successes, began to think even bigger. They would not stop at defense. They would take the fight to the aliens, and when they did, the invaders would learn that underestimating humanity was the last mistake they would ever make. As the battle raged on, humanity found itself in a precarious position. The predators had been severely underestimated, and their terrifying strength and advanced capabilities had shaken the world to its core. Yet, even as cities burned and entire armies were decimated, the resolve of the human species only grew stronger. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a fight for everything humanity had built, its culture, its values, and its future. While the predators were far from defeated, the humans had learned valuable lessons from each confrontation, and now, they were prepared to take their war effort to the next level. one of the critical turning points in humanity's response came from the realization that the battle was no longer about simply fending off attacks. The tide had shifted. The alien forces, initially so confident in their superior strength, had begun to lose the upper hand. But the predators were just the beginning. Behind them, in the shadows of the invasion, were the alien forces that had sent them. The predators were tools, pawns in a much larger, much more strategic game, and humanity had to anticipate the next move. They had to push forward, strike first, and force the aliens to reconsider their plans. The first step in this new phase of the conflict was strategic counteroffensives. After a string of victories, humanity began to focus on a series of key objectives. They didn't just want to push back the predators, they wanted to take control of the battlefield. Their ability to adapt and leverage technology had made them unpredictable, a trait that worked in their favor. A growing number of human commanders began to understand that the predators weren't the only threat. The real danger was the alien leadership, the ones pulling the strings. They knew that the only way to truly turn the tide was to strike at the heart of the alien invasion, and that meant going after their command center, the alien mothership orbiting Earth. The idea of launching an assault on the mothership seemed like an impossible task. The mothership was a floating fortress, heavily guarded by some of the most advanced alien technology the galaxy had ever seen. But what made it even more difficult was that it was controlled from the inside by a highly trained, alien military hierarchy, leaders who had orchestrated the entire invasion. If humanity was to defeat them, it would require more than just physical force. They would have to infiltrate the ship, disrupt its systems, and defeat the aliens on their own turf. Planning for the operation took several weeks, and during that time, humanity continued to grow stronger, adapting and innovating with every new predator they faced. They weren't just learning how to fight the invaders, they were learning how to think like them, how to predict their moves, and how to stay one step ahead. It became clear that the final push would require a coordinated assault, combining human ingenuity, technology, and the willpower to see it through. The human forces, now spread out across the globe, launched a series of diversionary attacks. These were designed not only to keep the remaining predators at bay but to draw attention away from the real objective. While the alien forces were focused on defending their ground positions, a small elite group of human soldiers, scientists, and engineers embarked on a secret mission. Their goal was simple: infiltrate the alien mothership and sabotage its core systems. The infiltration was a highly dangerous operation. The mothership, despite being a symbol of alien technological superiority, was not invincible. It relied on a centralized control system, one that allowed the aliens to communicate and coordinate with their predators. If the human team could access this system and introduce a virus into its data core, they could cripple the alien command structure, leaving the predators without leadership. But the risks were enormous. Any failure meant certain death, not just for the team, but for humanity as a whole. Using the element of surprise and exploiting a gap in the alien defenses, the human team managed to board the mothership undetected. The ship itself was massive, a labyrinth of steel corridors, alien technology, and intimidating weaponry. Every step they took was fraught with danger. The team had to rely on their training, their knowledge of alien technology, and their ability to adapt in real time. There were no backup plans. No second chances. If they were caught, they would be wiped out in seconds. What the aliens failed to anticipate was humanity's ability to adapt under pressure. They had sent their most powerful creatures to Earth, but they hadn't accounted for human resourcefulness. The team encountered multiple obstacles, from highly advanced alien security systems to predator sentinels patrolling the corridors. But each challenge was met with a quick, efficient solution. EMP devices disabled the ship's weapons systems, while decoys and misdirection kept the predators at bay. The humans worked in perfect coordination, their tactical minds sharper than the aliens had ever expected. The mission wasn't just about brute force, it was about using the aliens' own technology against them. As the team approached the central command room, they discovered something they hadn't anticipated. The alien leadership wasn't merely overseeing the battle from a distance, they were actively manipulating the predators' behavior. Through a series of neural connections and genetic engineering, the alien commanders had wired the Predators into a single, unified force, allowing them to communicate telepathically and follow orders without hesitation. This was the key to the Predators' effectiveness on Earth. Destroying the connection between them and their commanders was the only way to ensure their defeat. The team moved quickly, planting the virus into the mothership's core system. The virus wasn't just a digital tool, it was a weapon, capable of severing the neural links between the Predators and their commanders. With one successful upload, the virus began to spread throughout the mothership's systems. The first sign of success came when the Predators began to malfunction. Their coordination broke down, and they started to fight amongst themselves. The human team's plan was working. The virus was destabilizing the control network, and within minutes, the Predators began to fall into disarray. Back on Earth, the Predators were no longer the unstoppable force they had once been. The aliens' command structure had fractured, and the Predators, now without leadership, were easy targets for human forces. It wasn't just about defeating individual creatures anymore. It was about eliminating the core of the alien threat. By cutting off their communication and coordination, the humans had effectively won the war. But the battle wasn't over yet. The final phase of the conflict was yet to come. As the alien mothership descended into chaos, the remaining forces were now vulnerable, and humanity was ready to finish what they had started. The final confrontation had arrived, and humanity was poised to deliver the decisive blow. After weeks of strategizing, fighting, and adapting, they were finally in a position to take down the remaining alien forces. The alien mothership was in disarray, its systems compromised by the virus planted by the human infiltration team. The Predators, once a force of terror, had lost their coordination and were now wreaking havoc on each other. The alien leadership, with no control over their terrifying creations, had begun to crumble. However, despite the chaos inside the mothership, the invaders were not ready to surrender. The remaining commanders were determined to take Earth, no matter the cost. But humanity wasn't about to allow that to happen. The world had come together in the face of an existential threat, and now, united by a singular purpose, they were ready to put an end to this war. Human forces, now bolstered by the destruction of the Predators' leadership, launched their final offensive. They were no longer just reacting to alien attacks. They were on the offensive, attacking key alien strongholds around the world and pressing their advantage. The final battle began with a series of rapid strikes against the remaining alien fortifications. The weakened Predators, still in disarray, struggled to mount a cohesive defense. The human forces, fueled by a combination of anger, desperation, and determination, took full advantage of the Predators' inability to work together. The chaos was palpable, as alien warriors fought aimlessly, with no orders to follow and no purpose to guide them. It was during this period of disarray that humanity's ultimate weapon came into play. While their enemies had relied on brute strength, human ingenuity had proven to be far more dangerous. The virus, planted into the mothership's core systems, began to spread to the alien ground forces, further destabilizing their command structure. The human forces, now with full control of the battlefield, were able to outmaneuver the remaining Predators and alien soldiers. As the fighting intensified, the humans focused on dismantling the remaining strongholds. The alien mothership, now crippled, was slowly losing its power. The alien leaders, sensing the inevitable defeat, began to send out desperate transmissions, attempting to rally what little remained of their forces. But it was too late. The final remnants of the alien fleet were disorganized, scattered, and largely ineffective. Humanity had already taken control of key military infrastructure, and the alien forces had no capacity to regroup. It wasn't just military might that was helping the humans win. It was the will to survive, the ability to adapt, and the sheer resilience that had brought them to this point. The alien invaders had underestimated humanity at every turn, believing their technological superiority and their deadly predators would be enough to crush the human race. But the very traits that had made humans vulnerable to conquest were the same traits that allowed them to rise above the challenge. The final phase of the battle involved a direct assault on the alien leadership, which had now retreated to a heavily fortified command center within the mothership. With the aliens' control over their forces shattered, and the remaining command structure in disarray, human forces launched their final assault. The target was clear: neutralize the leadership and bring an end to the invasion. Humanity's strategy was as brilliant as it was bold. The invasion of the command center was led by an elite group of soldiers, engineers, and scientists, those who had orchestrated the battle from behind the scenes. They knew the weaknesses of the alien mothership and had developed strategies to exploit every flaw. They had studied the technology, reverse-engineered the alien systems, and planned for every contingency. It was a high-risk mission, but there was no other choice. This was the last opportunity to end the war once and for all. Inside the command center, the remaining alien leaders were in a state of panic. Their forces had fallen apart, and their carefully constructed invasion plans had unraveled. With the virus sabotaging their systems, they were now fighting a losing battle on all fronts. Yet, they remained defiant. They had never expected humanity to be capable of such resilience and ingenuity. To them, the humans were nothing more than primitive creatures, weak, insignificant, and easily crushed. Now they faced a force unlike any they had ever encountered, a species that would not be conquered, no matter the odds. The final battle was intense, a culmination of everything humanity had endured. The alien leaders fought fiercely, but the tide had turned irrevocably. The human team, using their advanced weaponry, overwhelming numbers, and strategic expertise, systematically dismantled the remaining defenses. The final push came when the human commander, leading the assault, infiltrated the command center and confronted the alien leaders face to face. It was a battle not just of strength, but of wills. The alien leaders, seeing the inevitability of their defeat, attempted to use their last remaining weapons, secret technology capable of devastating the Earth. But once again, humanity's adaptability and technological prowess won out. The human team had anticipated this last-ditch effort and was ready. In a final, decisive move, they disabled the alien weaponry and neutralized the alien leadership. As the dust settled, the alien forces were defeated, and the invaders had been driven from Earth. The survivors, including the human commander and his team, emerged victorious. The war was over, but the cost had been high. The battle had taken its toll on humanity. Cities lay in ruins, families had been torn apart, and the world was forever changed. But in the end, humanity had proven something that the aliens could never have anticipated, that their true strength didn't lie in their technological advancements or their physical prowess. It lay in their determination, their adaptability, and their unbreakable spirit. The Galactic Council, once confident in their superiority, now faced a grim reality. The human race had not only survived the invasion, they had turned the tables and won. Humanity had become the unlikeliest of heroes, a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. The aliens, once so certain of their dominance, were left to contemplate a future where Earth no longer seemed like an easy target. And so, Earth entered a new era. The human race, forged in the fires of war, had proven to the galaxy that it was a force to be reckoned with. The invasion had been repelled, and humanity stood tall, not just as survivors, but as victors. The Galactic Council, once dismissive of Earth's potential, was forced to reckon with the fact that the humans had annihilated their finest predators, and in doing so, had proven themselves to be the most dangerous species in the galaxy.